All right, welcome everyone. We have another very special guest today on the podcast. It's number 165, my man Lon McEachern in the building. Lon, how are you doing?
Hey, Jeff, good to see you. Nice to actually see your face. We were playing on a charity event online the other day. So it's actually good to see you. Thanks.
Yes, you as well. You as well. I think we battled in a couple of those. It's been a couple interesting years with COVID, bit crazy, everything a little off, and obviously online things more online centered with poker these days, but getting back to normal. How have you been? What have you been up to? Anything new during these COVID times?
Oh, man. Yeah, COVID, the first year or so, was very, very slow since we had no World Series in the summer. Managed to drag one out into December, so it got a little work. But yeah, it was pretty dry period. It has been very active since they ramped up again with the delayed World Series of Poker this last year. And then Norman and I have been in post-production with our group until just a week ago. We finished the season. So we did all the live calls from Las Vegas, and then they produced 15 one-hour programs that will be like the old style kind of highlight format, folks like to call it. And so we just finished that. We were down in Los Angeles, and those will have begun airing already on CBS Sports Network. And so you can check my Twitter, and I'll be putting out when those shows come out. CBS Sports Network's still trying to find their way with exactly where to put the World Series shows. They have problems with college basketball games that have been COVID delays, so they got to plug those in, and that changes our schedule for the World Series. But we'll come back after the Olympics are done, and you can watch the end of. And they rerun their shows a lot, so it's nice to be on CBS Sports Network right now. So I've been very busy until last Friday. Now golf and skiing time for me now here in Northern California.
Very nice. And how is since you've been the voice, they call you the voice of poker, with ESPN since what, 2002. Norman as well. You guys are kind of hand in hand. There's no I don't think about the World Series of Poker without you guys. How has it changed and evolved from over the years? Looking back now, because you had a career, you did some, I think, pro bowling, maybe even later on. You've done some X Games, you've done other stuff within TV, and then I think you took a break and they called you back for this, if I'm not mistaken. Could you maybe tell me?
Yeah, it was a kind of a forced break. I don't like to tie the two together, but there was a moment where a lot of the world shut down after 9/11, and I was at what I thought had been the height of my career when everything shut down, and then that shut my career down. And then I must have been nice to somebody at ESPN, because when I had gotten away from TV, I got a call from a producer at ESPN saying, "Hey, we're doing poker. Can you do it?" And then it's like, well, let me check with my boss to see if I have enough vacation time at the bank. And luckily I did. So yeah, it's been a rocky road for many decades now. And that's freelance sportscasting, really,
Well, so tell me about that. I don't understand exactly. So you were doing sportscasting because of this 9/11, this tragic event, this thing that sort of paused. What exactly?
Well, my first show on ESPN, I got onto ESPN only because, like every sportscaster back in the day, they want to be on this, what was a new network, kind of. ESPN2 was certainly new. And so that was the goal. I'd done local sports, been the local nightly sportscast guy in a small station in Southern California, moved up to the San Francisco Bay Area and worked as a sportscaster and sports producer for most of the stations in San Francisco. But the goal was to kind of get as big as you can. And then with ESPN really as the leader, the worldwide leader in sports, really, they lived up to their name. So everyone wanted to work for them. So I actually started a sports production company with a fellow producer, and we produced a TV show for ESPN. We convinced a guy out of Laguna Seca, the racetrack down in Carmel area, Monterey area, in California. They were doing a bastardized triathlon without the swimming that involved mountain biking and road cycling and running. And the marquee name competing at that point was Lance Armstrong, before he really got heavily into cycling. He ended up winning it. We produced the program, got it on ESPN. And of course, as producer, I had choice in who was going to be the actual on-air announcer. So I hired me and that was my first time I was on ESPN, and that kind of led to doing some stuff for ESPN2. So they got to know me and trust me. I became a regular field producer and announcer for different events there. And then, as mentioned, all budgets went to hell in '01, and I lost all my work. And I was out of work for like 2 years and finally gave up TV. Had a friend who worked at a bank. I became a loan officer for a bank in California. And then a couple of years later, I got this call out of the blue from an ESPN producer saying we're doing a poker show. And that led to the World Series, and that led to poker paying my mortgage now for 20 years.
There you go. It all comes full circle. So it's kind of crazy. That's one of those examples about now what happens, how you react to what happens, and really you never know, right? Like Black Friday, or things that maybe seem so terrible personally, right? Because obviously these are things that are just not good as a whole or seem colossus, and then find silver lining or find a way that things can kind of shift, or you kind of create your own.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice point you bring up, Jeff, because it's a life lesson that you don't learn until many, many years later, that the path that looks so disastrous is opening a door somewhere else, and you have to look for it. You have to examine it, try to figure it out. But in the moment, it's near impossible to be able to do that. So you just have to make the best of each day and try to make the best decisions for yourself and your people and your dogs and cats, and hope that it works out, and trust yourself. And I had to trust myself. And I believed that I was good at what I did and that it would eventually happen. Maybe if I were a different personality, I would have been more aggressive. I really never had an agent that did anything for me. And maybe I could have gone that path. When I was a TV broadcaster at a small station, I stayed there much longer than I should have, just because I had family and didn't want to move them around the United States. I wanted a little more stable environment for them. So that probably cost me some years at a larger, venue. But things work out how I guess they were going to work out, and I'm very happy about that.
And give me a bit of your poker background, because you get called up. I mean, you've done some other like X Games and bowling and stuff. Like, would you say at that time were you versed in poker? Did you play a lot?
Oh no, no. My ESPN career was being thrown weird, offbeat X Games type sports before there were X Games, and so that was kind of my bailiwick within the ESPN world, and that's how they knew me in the offices back in Bristol, Connecticut. Like, Chris Berman's not going to do this. Who can we give this to? I'll give it to McEachern out in California. It's weird. How often did you go to Bristol, or really never? But like that. No, I went a couple times just to schmooze. I was never there for work.
Right.
But I made a point to pop in once in a while just to remind people, I was there. I got to meet Susie Colbert, and that was cool. There was no need to be there as a freelance guy. They just, shipped stuff to me in California and said, hey, go here. At one point for a few years, when ESPN2 first started working, I was a field reporter, just doing producing 3 to 5 minute reports on these oddball sports with I had a producer and I had a camera guy. We were kind of a team, and we'd just travel around the US. And that was how I got to do the Tour de France 1 year, start to finish, sending reports back to ESPN. Still a highlight of my career, big cycling fan. So you just kind of make your way and do what you can, and make ends meet. And it's been a great career for me. Not the highlight career of an Al Michaels or somebody like that, but I love what I do. I love what I have done.
That's awesome. And so how did you learn? So what happened then when they tell you, okay?
Oh yeah, we're talking about poker, weren't we? Sorry.
No, well, that's good. This is good. I like the sort of.
I learned to play poker with our crew. I was a good interviewer, as kind of how I made my way early on with ESPN. I was a good interviewer of people who were not known, who were interesting, and I had a real drive to be able to want to bring out these insights of these athletes and these sports personalities or business personalities within the sports world. And so that's how I got into the broadcasting, and that was the initial uh, impetus of the shows, was kind of to learn about poker for myself, but also play the novice poker viewer from the booth side and interview the people that I would work with kind of in an hour-long format while watching poker and learning it myself. I started playing with the TV crew because the TV crew were not versed necessarily in the ways of poker. And so we would play during the breaks at the World Series of Poker. Weirdly enough, we didn't have any poker chips to play with. We had tables and we had cards, and during dinner break, we would go and look at our big craft table and see what we could use. And we ended up taking the red vine candy and cutting them up into different lengths, and that would be our poker chips, and we would betting pieces of red vine licorice during the dinner break. And the conference room table at the production company went from being a regular table to being a glass covered poker table. And then every night when we were in New York doing the production, we would play poker then. And you're in it that long, you have to kind of learn how to play. And everybody who was actually producing the shows were part of the poker boom in a fan sense as well. They loved producing it, but we all learned to play together. So that was a lot of fun.
Very cool. I mean, and you talk Bonnie and Clyde, Batman and Robin. You got Lon and Norman. What's this? Where did this come in? How did you know them beforehand, or did you guys get paired up for this project? How did you guys? Because you seem like friends for life. Like I can't think of without the other, and the thing works. So where did that come in, and how did they find that match?
It was random, and again, it was lucky. I did know Norman's work before I worked with him, as he wrote an NFL picks column in his comedy style. Every Friday, it would come out in syndicated newspapers. And the paper I was reading at that point, when I was living in the Bay Area, was the San Jose Mercury News. And so they ran it every Friday. And my wife always knew when I was reading his column because I was laughing. It was just crazy. Something about his humor and his wit and his intellect just struck a chord in me. And so then I heard I was going to be working with him, and he's only working because he was kind of a consultant for ESPN, and they came to him and talked, say, we're going to do some poker. What do you think? And he gave some ideas and was like, who should be the co-host? And they gave some names, but they didn't want to rely on a pro poker player because they might actually be in the event and they couldn't work the shows. So they wanted somebody who was not an active pro. And they just looked at Norman and said, you make us laugh on the telephone when we're doing our conference calls. Why don't you do the shows? He said, okay. And so we first met probably day 3 or 4 of the main event, 2003 at Binion's. And we just hit it off. We appreciated each other and what we could bring to the shows. And it was different, but it complemented each other. And then my first few shows with him, again, were basically like an hour-long interview on what are we seeing, why are they doing this, as we all gradually learned more and more about poker. But we were, again, part of the wave, figuring out poker, learning poker, but coming at it from a little different angle, trying to present it all to the people as well. So fortuitous, and one of those things that just this happened and we caught lightning in a bottle. So hopefully for some people, they think the lightning is still shining bright. That's nice.
Yes, it is. And so 2002, you were doing this already, and then you were with someone else, and then in 2003, Norman came in. Is that right?
Yeah, it was actually a different production group. It was just a guy who used to shoot all the main events for the longest time. He had a little crew, and he had shot a lot of the main events, many years, and then he put a show together. So it was this random guy, and not random, he had a little production company in Las Vegas, but a big poker fan. So he shot the 02 main event, but nobody ever had any interest in airing it. And finally, he convinced ESPN to air the show. And so it was January in 03, which is like 7 months later, because the World Series a little earlier in the year. that I got a call saying, this guy's got some shows from the World Series. Do you want to do it? Again, one of those odd projects that nobody else at ESPN wanted to do. So they gave it to me. And then he convinced Gabe Kaplan to be the co-host. And so he and I met up in Las Vegas, and we went into a booth and pieced together a couple of shows that became the World Series of Poker, 2002. And then shortly thereafter is when ESPN decided to go with a much stronger commitment to do the 03 main event for, I think it was 6 or 7 shows. So then that was given to a different production company, much more formalized.
Is that with Maury?
No, it was 441 Productions out of New York. Matt Morantz and his group, who did the first 7 or 8 years of the World Series. And it just, luckily, again, talk about lightning in a bottle, Chris Moneymaker winning in 03. And so we were off and running, and we were a team.
And when did you know this was like pretty special? Because you've done stuff, you've been in sports for so long, you've been in the mix, you've been around, you've been in it. But did you know this was different? Were you like, wow, like, did you imagine after that year or that production? Was it when numbers came out? Was it when feedback, like, does everyone know it's a winner right there? Or when you get that feedback that it's a success?
It took a long time to get that feedback because the way those shows were produced and the way that 441 produced the shows, they were finely crafted documentaries. And that was their background. They were documentary producers. They were not sports producers. They were not poker producers.
Right.
They were people who knew how to shoot a documentary, who had seen some highlights of the earlier World Series of Poker on the Travel Channel, and were really intrigued with the people who played, all the characters that they saw, and thought that this could be something special. And so that's how it started, as a documentary kind of format. And then, it takes months to put these shows out. We did see something, even though we didn't know, I didn't know exactly what I was looking at in the first World Series I was doing. And then when it finally hit the air a few months later, it was almost instantaneous. You could just tell, because you couldn't turn on ESPN without seeing that heads-up match between Moneymaker and Farha. And like I said, I think I produced 6 or 7 hours of programming from the 03 World Series. So 6 or 7 shows, but ESPN ran those shows. I think they had 1,400 or 1,500 hours of poker on that year after it started airing, because it had so much interest. And so,
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this is the exact time I got into it. I was born in '86, and I think it was in high school. And it was basically Rounders and this double whammy same time. I was like 15, probably, or no, what is that? What year is that? I don't even know. 90 what? Yeah, so
yeah, 98 or something like that was Rounders, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I hadn't seen it. That got me to see Rounders when I saw the Moneymaker. That's like, then I heard about this movie. So like I was watching it there, and then I like saw the movie, and I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And that was kind of all in one thing, but it was just crazy because it really did happen fast. Like it just seems like the right place, right time. And if Moneymaker, I mean, what do you think is the biggest break out of all that? Is it Moneymaker? Is it him winning? Is it that different, or was it still going to be great no matter what? He gets second, and like the production was great, exciting, the money was big.
I think it was still going to be great, maybe not to the same degree or as quickly. Farha was a wonderful character himself, but he was the grizzled Vegas veteran who was the epitome, I think, of what people thought of backroom poker. And I maybe still think to this day, which hurts advertising, I think, for one thing. But you had the big money. You still had Moneymaker at the final table. You had the whole cams. So there were a lot of things going for us. Moneymaker just made it a perfect storm, I think, in 03, that really put it over the top. Was that here's this guy who never played a live tournament before, taking down everybody that was a big name in poker. And that gave it gave everyone watching it that, Mike McDermott moment where I'm going to Vegas and I'm going to do it. So yeah, that was just the tipping point, I think.
Yeah, and because I mean, from the numbers from Varconi and then Moneymaker, was it then the '04 was like the insane jump, but even from 2002 to three was a big
Oh
jump.
yeah, no, that
Like,
I think it's highly, I think it's overlooked is the Varconi effect. Just the fact it was on TV, and you had again, you had Robert Varconi, a non-poker pro, but
right,
just this very smart guy, I think MIT, who knew what he was doing. He, I mean, he's like this quiet, nice, mousy type of guy in a sweet way. Because I love Robert, whose wife is probably a better player than him, Olga, and he wins and takes down Phil Hellmuth, who loses the bet, gets his hair shaved, and all, on other things. But so it was a great story in its own, which got totally overshadowed by Chris Moneymaker. And then the field tripled the next year when Greg Raymer won, and then we know by '06, we had almost 10,000. So
yeah, crazy.
yeah, it was a ramp up, but Moneymaker, if Varconi, set the football down, it was Moneymaker who kicked the field goal.
Right. It makes it makes perfect sense. And talking personally, of course, just like on Twitch and public stuff, people want to know your social, how much you make, all these different things. Like without being so specific though, when ESPN you're doing this kind of stuff, did you just give me like an idea on the contract or like how does that work? Because you guys lock in, you guys crush it. Poker's blowing up, '03. You see the results like '04. Did you then was there like were you on a year by year then? Was there like at any point like a lock-in contract for the World Series? And how did it maybe shift with Black Friday? And just kind of give me like a scope of your last. How does that work in terms of with you guys?
It's that has been just as rocky, and so to give you a little background, and I mentioned that all my work had gone away just a couple years before that, and so I'm going to the ATM and I'm pulling out my receipts with lots of zeros on it. And yeah, that's nice sometimes, but there was no number in front of the zeros. It wasn't like a 1 with 6 zeros. It was just 4 zeros. Sorry, you're out of money. Can't give you anything. So there were some tough times, and I was, scrambling, and I was looking for any work I could. So eventually, as I mentioned, I took a job in a bank, and it was a good time to be a lender back in that day with the boom. But my love was always broadcasting. I grew up in a broadcast family. My dad did it, my older brother did it, and I did it as well. So all in TV. Dad was a TV pioneer, when TV was kind of new. So that's, as much as I had a need and a desire to, provide for the family with any job possible, I'm a broadcaster, and that's what I loved. And so the deal with the first year, it was probably just like a typical freelance. We'll pay you X number for each show. And then the next year, we did maybe twice or 3 times as many shows, maybe 21 shows. And so this is good, and I'm keeping my job at the bank while I'm doing this, because my time away from the bank is only as much time as I'm going to spend in Las Vegas to watch the final table.
Right.
And then a few days here and there to produce the shows and sit in the sound booth and talk. Then we started doing more shows, so that took up some more time. I'm more time away from the bank because, I'm only working a month a year. I need 11 more months of income, so I'm staying with a real job. And then eventually, I remember the day, and it's funny you bring this up because just yesterday I reached out to the guy who sat me down, producer at ESPN, Fred Christensen. And we were in New York doing our production work. He called me to breakfast. So we met at breakfast. And this was probably '06. So we'd already done the '05, and it was really solidified. They knew the numbers, poker from the '03 event. And then '04, kind of solidified that we got something special here on ESPN. So I had a deal that was, very nominal. It was nice side income from the work I was doing. Fred took me out to breakfast. I did have a contract, I think it was for 2 or 3 years, to do up to a certain number of shows on ESPN for the poker. And he said, and he looked at me, and it's the first time anybody's ever said this. I almost cried at breakfast. He said that we're going to tear up your contract, and I want to pay you 4 times as much as you're getting right now, and because we want you to do the poker for the time on memoriam coming forward. And I remember walking away and calling my wife in California and just telling her this story. It was just something we had really needed, for one, but really wanted for my career and for us, for for as long as I got into broadcasting. Had security, had a good show, had good pay, and it was a real defining moment. And since then, ESPN was really good to me. I again never needed an agent with them, and we just kind of rolled over. There was raises here and there, and then it changed. The formats changed, through the years. Poker plateaued a little bit. I'm not complaining, but things certainly have changed. Budgets have changed. Priorities have changed in the last few years for a lot of reasons. But I'm happy where I am. There's other things going on within the poker world, and I'm still thrilled to be part of it. And have very few complaints, and nobody will listen anyway. So I'm happy.
Well, I mean, I think to your point, things have changed. There's been obviously like Black Friday in 2011, April 15th. That was an interesting time, and things shifted a lot, and the money and things have dipped. But there's also, now with COVID, I think there has been a resurgence of online stuff, and you see the live numbers are crazy. And I think there's a lot of money just in gaming, sports betting. There's a lot of talk about the states getting piggybacked on with sports. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? You can play daily fantasy in most of the states, which is like,
oh yeah,
pretty obviously way less skill. Then there's poker online, which is like huge tax dollar stuff. You got Michigan, Pennsylvania on board. Delaware's already there. Nevada, New Jersey. You get a California or a Florida or a New York, one or two more. Yeah, you got some real stuff going on. So I think it's sort of right there. It feels like it's ready to break out.
And that was actually one of the questions I saw one of your Twitter followers asking about some of the changes that I've seen, and that is one of them. Is there maybe some light at the end of the tunnel, on online poker? And you mentioned California, where there is a desire for it, even just down the road. I live from the state capital, Sacramento, but there are so many factions involved, which is because of the money potentially involved for them. And so it's like the legislature is like almost okay with it all, but it's the people who are going to be running it that can't get their act together and make a cohesive and strong and clean proposal with good actors that people can agree on. And so that's the roadblock. It's not as much the elected officials as the people who will run the poker.
Right. I mean, I know PokerStars did a tour. They had their
right.
Ran
they were here.
Full
yeah.
thing.
So it's unfortunate, and then that's the roadblock. And when you go state by state, that is a roadblock you're going to find it everywhere you go. So it's slowly growing and getting momentum. And again, we saw what happened when you have online poker and how much that helps the poker industry and the live poker industry. And you mentioned the live numbers after COVID have been off the charts, and to have the number of people we had at this year's World Series, 6,500, 6,600, whatever it was. And it's amazing, but we need to have the world, and we've always had the problem of the advertisers, the big time advertisers, the beer advertisers, other than, we did old Milwaukee for a little while, but they need to recognize that poker is not a dangerous industry, and it's not that scary backroom world. And shows like yours, and a point to Kara Scott's Heart of Poker podcast that tell people what poker is really like. Kara Scott's show talks about, it's a poker podcast without talking about poker. And the important thing is we're learning about the people, and they are people that, people would like to see, advertisers like to see. Same people on your show that, is showing the true behind the scenes, innovators of poker. And I think it can be a welcoming environment and a group that advertisers want to reach. But I think poker still has a stain from years ago.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that too, you see Queen's Gambit. I don't watch much TV, but I saw that series. Thought it was really well done. Chess, obviously, an interesting game, similar to backgammon, poker.
Yeah.
Obviously, more direct. The best player is going to win almost always, and that makes it a little less enticing. But there is aspirationally to get better and grow and move up. But I think that's sort of the difference. You have Queen's Gambit, which is like this glorified show that's like really well done and top. That people can they see and they want to be like, wow, that's great. And then you got Rounders, which is sort of like the pillar of poker, and that's got like a lot of kind of, even though it's a great movie, it's got some sort of back exactly seedy backdoor stuff. The main character is kind of cheating, and it's like all this sort of, it's just kind of seedy. And then on top of that, you have like the Hendon Mob, right, which is like the place where you go. That is the holy grail for I look back and I pretty much any poker person that plays like for a living, I'll look back and it's like their careers there. But that word is like Hendon Mob, like that's like it's great, great site,
right?
The way we're like glorifying the game. So it's like you start thinking about these things, and these are sort of like two of the more things that are like a part of poker, and it's just sort of like it's not really, it's not great. I think how that's portrayed.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there could be, it's like crazy because actually there's been shows. I know there's been some pilots. I've seen some stuff, heard stuff, but I think there is room for a show like poker, right? That could be like a Queen's Gambit. You have guys that like started with $50, $100 that made a career for themselves. You make this. There was the 2 months, 2 million, but that was like a couple of guys with a cool concept, a group of guys that did something in kind of not real production. But if you actually had like a real show like Queen's Gambit with a group of guys, or moving forward, and it's got, you can still have the sex, drug, rock and roll stuff. It's just you got to portray it maybe in more of a passionate and light way. I think that could help, but who knows?
And for a chess show, they had a little dark side to them as well. In the Queen's Gambit, they had a few shows. There's some drinking going on. Come on, chess is not just
yeah. I got to ask you. I mean, most people, if you're watching, when they see this and hear it, they may not know, but I got that ear. I feel like I hear some chips clicking in the background, like poker, like some sort of chip. Do you have a game going?
No,
there?
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Did you hear that though? I do hear that. It's like every once in a while, it's like a little like pot getting dragged, which is nice.
Maybe it's my cheat bag. I don't know. No, I'm sorry. I don't have any chips.
It's all good. I like it. It's on topic, so it's fine. I don't know if you were watching Sweating the Table or something on the side, but
I always wondered as the side gig making one of those white noise machines that would be chips rippling, and I don't know if it would excite poker players or lull them to sleep. I'm not sure how exactly.
I like it. I heard a little bit. It's like every once in a while, but it just gets me, ready to go. All right. Well, tell me about your poker now that you've gotten into it. You've learned it. You talked about kind of getting into it as it was going. Do you play? You do play sometimes, but do you like playing? Like you go and play cash games? What's your preference if you get to play, poker for a day or two?
It goes back and forth. I really love, and I love strategy of them. Maybe it comes from my cheap Scottish heritage nature or something like that. That with a tournament, it's one buy-in. You don't have to refill the kitty. But I do enjoy a really good poker tournament. I love freeze outs. I love deep stacks. I like bigger events, and I've been bitten by the bug as well. I have access to people, like you and Antonio and Jamie Kerstetter, Maria Ho, and others who, we can talk poker if we want and give me some insights. And just being steeped in it, I'm going to pick up stuff. So I really love, I love the tournament stuff. I do know the cash games are probably required to kind of keep solvent, but at a very, I don't know. I run really good in life and really good in work and really bad in Hold'em. So I seem to run better in Omaha, but it's hard to play that much. It's very typical, I think, of my poker career, as it were, happened recently at Thunder Valley Casino. We had the World Series circuit event here. So I played a deep stack event, and I got down low early on, which is kind of typical for me. And then I just settled down, played good poker, got up to an average stack, and the blinds got bigger, and I got stacked set under set, by a new guy at the table. So then I go over to a cash game table and I get stacked flush under flush. And I'm going, all right, this is pretty typical. But then the way my life goes is like an old Seinfeld episode where he's always even. He throws $100 bill out the window and then he goes and sits on the couch and pulls out a $100 bill. So after I get stacked a second time at the cash game, it's never happened before, but the table hits the bad beat jackpot for 23,000, and the table share, which I get, is like 1,600, and I walk away even for the week. So that's kind of how it works for me. I'll win just enough. It's like a slot machine. You win just enough to keep playing, and which is fine with me, And I always walk away thinking maybe my real thing is to, donate my money back to the poker crowd so everyone else can keep playing and watching. So I don't know.
I love it. Well, I noticed your first ever tournament record on, speaking of the Hendon Mob.
There it is.
There it is. You got a final table. And I think 97% of the guests I would say in that range, have final table their first ever live event on here, which is like kind of crazy stat if you think about it. But, was this literally the first time you ever played a tournament, or no? Had you been?
It was. Cash? It was. Yeah. We had a guy here in Sacramento who was starting a little local poker tour. And so they wanted to bring me on as part of the group to give advertising to this poker tour. And so they bought me in. It was a 400 event or 365, I guess. And it was one of those things, we're up at Harvey's in South Lake Tahoe, circuit event. And honestly, didn't even, there's a lot of, tables being played. I had no idea. This is the honest truth, Jeff. They never said a word because there's other tables going on until we were like seven-handed that I even knew we were at the final table. I was so focused on what was going on, so ignorant of what was going on, and they were making no announcements about what was going on. Suddenly we're at the final table, and I took a bad beat to finish fourth, but still I had a lot of chips.
That's crazy to come in the first one. That must have been a pretty fun experience, right? Because it's like,
it was amazing.
How hard it is, how much has to happen. 500 plus people. That's got to be pretty cool.
Over the moon. I was over the moon. I made the hour and a half drive from Tahoe that night, fighting the snow on the way home because they do it in November. And just, I got home and dumped 11,000 hundreds on the bed. And, my wife had thought maybe I won $2,000 or something like that. It's like, wow. So that was an amazing experience. I love doing that. That was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Is there any hands? I mean, you've done so many, you've seen it all, the final tables, the biggest money, the biggest sweats. Is there any, story or one that stands out? Was it maybe because of how many players there were? I mean, of course, Moneymaker is pretty magical, but was there any, like maybe a hand, even like a equity hand in one of the years, or some hand that just was like, I mean, I have one or two that stand out. Is there anyone that you really were like, it actually blew your mind?
Actually, yeah. I did have one, and then we got a second one this year, actually at the final table. And the show hasn't aired yet. I'm not going to, people can know it or not. But anyway, I'll go back up just a couple of years ago. It was 2019 when Alex Livingston, they were 10-handed, for the main event, and it was aces versus kings. And so that hand was amazing. The second pair of kings called. Alex Livingston had folded pocket queens, I think, before that, which saved his tournament life, which made him, I think, eventually a third place finisher. But what I love about that is when we're able to reveal the cards even before the players know what's going on, and you see the aces, and then you see kings, and something's going to happen. Then the very next guy wakes up with pocket kings, and so it's the anticipation of what's going to happen on that. We had this year at the final table where the chip leader is last act in the big blind, and one guy goes all in, another guy goes all in, and then the big stack wakes up with a hand. And so it's the anticipation. That's what I love about the game. I was thinking about that the other day, is the anticipation. I think what I love most about poker is every hand. It's being dealt every hand and wondering what that hand is going to be. I don't I'm not a like a mixed game guy who's going to squeeze it, at the end and see, how many, spots you got or anything.
Yeah.
But it just, I wonder what my hand is right now. And that it's like Christmas every time I get dealt a hand just to see what's going on. I'm a little sick that way, but it's a joy still.
It's fun. It's also interesting, it's something where it's similar to golf. You can play the same course every time, but the conditions will be different. The group you're with will be different. The whole place will be different. Similar in poker, you get ace king, dealt to you, but you got a different stack size, different table, different situation. I think that's what's so unique. It's like in this confined space, you get so many different possibilities and combinations and situations that are just really never the same, even though, you just take a few variables and it's a completely different world. So it's so fun and it's just constantly.
Oh yeah, and that's what I love about the World Series of Poker. It's like, the greatest dramatic comedic play on Broadway. Even though it's got the same title every year, it's a World Series of Poker main event. You've got a different cast of characters every year. How they got there is different. Their stories are different, and it's brand new every year. It's brand new every day, and that's the beauty of it too, because it's poker, but it's life and it's people and it's experiences and it's history. It's our world really wrapped up into a poker tournament, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, and I like how you said this earlier, and I think this is something that for me is the most important, if not thing that I would like to see hit home more. It's like the lessons and the things, the variance of life you get with poker. It's like in one little spot you get to learn a lot, right? Like I think if you're trying to get it through legislation or people to really understand, if the message that you could get about poker is like, look, things happen. You just said it yourself about poker. You're like, I think I'm one of the most unlucky guys in Hold'em or whatnot, which may or may not be true. Probably is if you know your situation.
It's not.
Well, yeah, but you
but
get
I believe it.
But like still, like you realize though that there is math, there is variance, there is situations, and then you are realizing though, just like getting the call from ESPN, like your whole life is different, maybe because of one thing you said, or someone knew something that because you're, like that is a butterfly effect, sliding doors situation, just like in poker. Like you could be knocked out of the main event, queens to ace king off, before the money bubble, and you could have won the tournament, right? But like you're also, because of that pain or suffering, to make it dramatic, that moment, like the guy this year, I was there. I was in a tournament. I walked by on break and I saw the hand where the guy lost with aces, all into ace nine to burst the bubble. But like, just like that experience is so intense for that person, he's going to bottle that energy and hopefully use it positive and find a way to like take that into his life. But the opposite is, the person that beat him or the one who won the main event. Like you can take a situation, good, bad, ugly, fun, and you can use that as sort of a metaphor in life. I think that's one of the biggest things about poker. If you can get that home, that you get lessons, you get experiences, winning, losing, other people's success, your success, how you deal with wins, losses, all these things, like there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's sort of the thing that is that not maybe understood enough.
And I'm starting to see some movement towards that, and how valuable the skills you need for poker can be elsewhere. And I'm sure a lot of people, maybe you've done it yourself, who are invited top pros to speak in a business type forum. And what we're seeing now, and it's nice because it's dovetailing with the need to get more women in the game, is we're seeing a little more higher profile of groups who are creating poker groups for women, whether or not it's for poker or it's for business. Power Poker for one of them, you can find them on Twitter, who are teaching women business skills and life skills and money management skills and personal skills through poker. And they're having a lot of success, getting some headway. And I believe, the women could very well fuel the next poker boom. I mean, they're half the population and they're 4% of the main event. And it's crazy because I did 100 billiard shows for ESPN, and I covered the men's tour. A friend of mine covered the women's tour, and some days we would come together, have them both playing at the same time. And you just came to notice that pretty much, why are there two different tours for men and women in a game like billiards? There's not in poker. It's a skill game. It's not a strength game. And there's no reason why, we shouldn't have more women in the game, other than, again, the reputation maybe of the game, what they've heard, a bad apple here or there. I do think most people welcoming of women at the table, but it doesn't take many who are not to turn off, a person coming who tells her friends, don't go there because of this. And so it'd be nice to turn that around.
Right. And so what, did they end up combining the tours for billiards or no?
No, they keep the tour. No, I mean, well, men.
Why not though? That seems like an easy combo, especially like, what do you think the reason is that? It just seems kind of crazy. And is it that big of a pool? There's that big of a market for both?
No, it's not, obviously. When's the last time you saw a pool on TV? It just, the men traditionally were the tour, and then obviously the women came on later on. Even though the women were much better organized, they were much better as a group. Men can't organize anything. If you put them, 10 of them in the room, you're going to get 10 different directions, and their tour eventually, melted away. And they're doing trick shot stuff now, but there are still little tours. But for the main tour, we didn't even mix them back then. We had the women's tour on one table, women's tour on a different, the men's tour on a different table in the same show. I don't know why they never combine them. There's a little, muscle involved on the break, but it's a different style of game. And maybe it's just to make some feel safe, not having to interact with the others, because I don't know, crazy.
Interesting. And what do you think, looking back now to the, looking at this footage of 2003, let's take Moneymaker to the footage, now, and you got Poker Go, you got Maury, got all these like amazing advances, and just in general, the game has gotten more complex, more information, big blind ante speeding thing up, all these different changes. What to you is the most, looking at the footage now, are you like kind of blown away? I mean, or is that just, I guess anything in any sport, any stuff is moving forward progressively and always kind of changing. But are you kind of like mind blown by what's happening now with what they do versus then, or is it really not that different in your opinion?
No, it is, and it's boy, listen to it, and when I do listen to the early shows, I cringe. Nobody knew how to broadcast poker. We were creating something that, out of nothing. So kind of making it up as we went along.
Right.
We used to bring in Billy Gazes, a New York pro, to help guide us once in a while on where we should be going. But as you know, excuse me. As you know, sorry, Jeff. As you know, through the years, with any sport, the amount of information that they started to glean, and the whole Moneyball thing and baseball, and then you started to see poker stats. I remember the first year we put up VPIP, the only year. It's like, what is VPIP? But it tells you a lot about what's going on, and so it was a natural progression, to collect those numbers and somehow relay them and try to tell the story of why somebody's doing something. It was more early days. It was like, well, these guys have history at another table. They probably played together. That's why he's making that crazy call right here. But as we now know, there's a lot more reasons to do that. So it was inevitable, and TV is always looking for something different. Static is no good at any time, pretty much, in broadcasting and sports broadcasting. There's a lot of over-the-top stuff. So change, you have to change. You have to keep it fresh. And, to see what goes on now, I just technically, when we started covering live poker, it was pretty basic. Couldn't see whole cards at first, and then we can see, outer tables, and we can interview people at outer tables, and which is a great idea. Finally has come to be, and it's good to have those minds who are always thinking a year or two ahead. Now, this is what we have now, and it's great, but we're going to need, something else in 2 years. So it's good to have people at a higher pay grade doing that for us.
Right. No, it's for sure evolved, but it's exactly progression, and just kind of, it's cool how all this stuff has worked. And it's like you see the shot clocks sometimes being used in WPT and Poker Go, and then you see big blind ante. It's like just kind of like these are it's just interesting to know, like, there's always going to be things that are going to improve, and we're going to find ways to get better, because this is
Right.
like, kind of can't believe, like, oh, how could we not have done Big Blind Nanny? It's so crazy. Like, it's so simple, but like,
I know it's very simple, isn't it? Yeah.
it's which is good. Tell me a bit about so you've covered X Games, you've covered bowling. What other that kind of other stuff besides poker? Because you're known now as the voice of poker, pretty much, which is pretty cool. But like, what are these other sports? What are some good stories or moments, or which was sort of the more fun out of those to do? I would imagine X Games, you probably see some crazy stuff and big wipeouts, and like, it's intense, right? And what do you enjoy the
Yeah.
most?
I was I worked the first 3 or 4 X Games, both summer and winter, when winter came in, just because I was doing those kind of features for ESPN2 before the X Games, and so I ended up doing climbing events, I think. So not a lot of wipeouts in that, weird speed climbing, technical climbing, ice climbing, and so it was a great thing to be part of that, because that first year we did the X Games might have been the biggest event that I was part of at ESPN up to that point, and they just blew it out. They spent a lot of money doing it. They paid me more money than they ever paid me before, and everybody else, and had all the ESPN talent on site in Newport, Rhode Island, and it was very exciting. I got wardrobe, which was nice, last time I got wardrobe, and but it had been a long grind before that, and like I said, I mentioned I did a lot of billiard shows, did the Tour de France and other cycling events, did probably 200 martial arts fighting programs, kickboxing, ISKA. Eventually moved into some MMA stuff, but kickboxing I always thought was probably the best martial art combat sport there has been. It took a long time for people to begin to understand what the down fighting was in MMA, but kickboxing was boxing with kicking, so what more do you want? And an occasional elbow thrown in. And we did a finale in the Tokyo Dome one time, and just to see the fervor of the Tokyo public for these fighters and for this event. Tokyo Dome, is basically an indoor baseball, football stadium over there. And we were going to do 8 fights and determine who the K1 champion is, where the winner fights 3 times. The thing sold out 65,000 seats within a half an hour. And you just don't, it was amazing. You never see that here in the US. And so to be part of those huge events was really nice. And I fast forward to the World Series, and I had some friends come out who knew what I did, and but they didn't understand kind of how big the main event was. And so they came out and they were watching the final table, where at that point it was Norman and Jamie Kerstetter and myself. We were going to be doing our on-camera open. And yep, I looked around, because they mentioned this to me, because by this time I've been doing it so long, I don't see everything. But there are probably 15 people who were hovering around us and doing all little jobs to make what we're going to do happen. And it does take a village to pull this off. And so they were amazed that, all the stuff that has to happen to make 3 people stand in front of the camera and just, talk cohesively for a few minutes. And it made me think of the responsibility we all have, and I have. And my dog wants to get down. This is Chachi, by the way. Sorry, there's Chachi. He's a famous poker dog. And but to have all these people and everything come down to this moment where there's a single shot of me. If I thought about all the people that are working to make that happen, there's no way I could do my job. So we're all very lucky, and to be part of really a cultural revolution and evolution of poker that has worked its way into everyday cultural nomenclature. How many times in the last week have you heard a politician say we're all in on this, or something like that? It's just it's nice to be part of that and to be part of the growth of a great game like this that has been so good to so many people, and it's very humbling.
And I got to ask you, because you see there's the superstars of our era, the guys that were around from like 03, 04, 2002, obviously Moneymaker kind of put in effect. Then you got like Antonio Esfandiari, Phil Ivey, Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth, right? These kind of like pillars that were there on
Mhm.
TV, winning events from the beginning. They get recognized probably a fair amount when they're out. There's obviously Twitch, YouTube, sort of a new
Mhm.
generation of content going around. But you've been on ESPN for a long time, and like you mentioned, 3, 4, 5 aired a lot of footage, a lot of reruns, a lot of the stuff going. Like, how often? I mean, when you go out in your local area around, do people like? Are you getting recognized? Because I'd imagine you're on there a lot. You've been on ESPN. Like they cover you a lot. Do people
It's
recognize you a lot?
once in a while, once in a while, it's like I don't know, the perfect amount of celebrity where you're recognized, in the poker world, and once in a while people might say, "Oh, you were that guy,"
You look familiar,
Um,
yeah.
not a lot. It's funny that we're not doing as much stuff on camera now, but um, and the masking right now, doesn't lend to knowing who's who right now either. But it's when I talk, at a table when they hear my voice, and like you can just see and so many people say, "Oh, I didn't know that was you until you said anything." So
Right.
um, I
Yeah,
guess I
you
am
make a
the
good point.
voice of poker.
It's probably about the right amount, right? Because even some people
Yeah,
like who are famous, or you probably met some athletes and people like it's cool and whatever. Of course, it's nice to be successful and whatever and whatnot. But yeah, the right amount is a good way to
it's
put
just
it.
the right amount, because recently I went to a golf course and the guy says, "Oh my God, you're Lon McEachern." And I said, "Yeah, what's the cheap afternoon rate here?" He says, "No, go ahead, play for free. It's on me." That's just the amount. That's the amount I
That's
want,
just you want. Yeah, a couple hot dogs maybe around here and there. That's
Right.
good. Well, tell me about this table here, man. I saw this. I think they were advertising this. The WSOP. There you
All
are,
right.
Norman. There. So give me a little. What's going on? How much are these? What are they? Looks nice. It looks like a very strong.
Now, BBO Poker Tables does a really nice job. They actually are in Las Vegas. Norman and I visited the factory where they make them, and they specialize in custom tables. And I'm not going to be their commercial for them, but it's have a cool thing which I'd never seen before. I mean, if somebody wants to, and they do it for charity events, have a custom table for a charity event or a birthday party, you can send them artwork, and it could say, happy 39th and a half birthday, Jeff Gross. Here's your second grade class. You can send them artwork, and they can print it up like in a day, and it's a felt on a poker table. So
That's very cool.
they've got little characters of me and Norman, which you can see behind me a little bit here, and put anything you want on them. I think they started ours as kind of a low rent version. They've got huge pedestals, which would be a poker table that would sit there, and not move. Some have folding legs underneath, which I think ours starts at a pretty low price point, and you can just add, whatever you want, color, the lights, more cup holders, a bigger pedestal or whatever, and just build the price up. But
Yeah.
they're pretty reasonable for a poker table. But it was just kind of a kick in the pants to have somebody reach out and say, it would be nice to have your signature line. And I think they might be coming out with some app where we recorded some of our poker calls on there, and you could, if a guy calls and of course loses with pocket jacks, we'll talk about the Lon McEachern Memorial Hand pocket jacks. This little fun stuff. So it was a nice little kick in the pants and recognition of maybe that we've done something for the poker world over the years.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's nice to have it's nice to have a nice table. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
Yeah.
you run games, have games, friendly game, once a week game. It's good to have. You've been there. I'm sure you've been to all the different types. You've been to great venues. You've been to not so nice, and it is nice when you're playing to have a nice table and chips and setup.
Yeah,
So,
that was one of the first at-home features I think was ever done. We did a feature at Dan Shack's home game, and of course Dan Shack has more money than most of us, but to see it, I mean, that was the first time I'd ever seen a luxurious poker table. It was an amazing thing that looked like the most expensive mahogany wood in the world, and all the bells and whistles on it. And it's like, oh wow, look what this can be. So
It's actually amazing how many tables, because I know there's a couple companies that I have a few, and I've got one. These look really nice too. But yeah, you can go a wide range and have nice tables made. But it is it's surprising. I think there's that people that have actual homes that have, like, if you have space, right? It's like one thing in a condo can be a little bit harder if you know to throw something in. But if you have a home and you play poker and like it, there's a lot of people that have a table of some degree. So I mean, poker's like, it really is a popular game. People have it. It's like it's just one of those things that most people play at some point or once.
Yeah, and I think the great impetus also, when you have a table, what are you going to do? You're going to call up 8 people to come over and play. And it's not just the poker. It's really what poker has always been. It should be a social game to come and have fun. And it does create family. I believe that. I mean, I've been told that for a long time, but I really believe that, you know, if you're calling people up to come to your house and socialize and play poker or foosball, whatever, you know, it creates a better society, a better neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. You can play for any stakes, and you know, it doesn't have to be crazy. So let's we've definitely, I've learned a bunch. We've covered a lot. I do want to make sure we get time for a giveaway today. I want to.
Oh, what are we giving away?
I'm giving 20 cash, man. I've doubled the BTC giveaways. I just, there's my goodbye from Party Poker 3 years. I usually give like Party Poker tickets, but you know about Party Poker tickets, not everyone's eligible, only part of the world. So guess what? Cash money, man. What's better than cash? You can do what you want with
man.
it. So
not even crypto.
Not even, exactly. You could buy crypto if you want. So with that, yeah. I got, okay, before we do start taking questions, what tell me, NFT crypto, what's your feel on it? Because I mean, you're in it, you're in poker, people are around it, you hear it, it's talked about all the time. What do you think? Is there a Lon McEachern catchphrase NFT? Have you been approached? Because there are some poker projects. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's funny. My intro to crypto was through David Williams, and he worked. I was working a couple of events with him at the World Series during the earlier bracelet events a few years back. And Dave is funny because, you know, he competed on the cooking show. Very smart guy, as you know, and a great poker player. But while we were broadcasting poker, a bracelet event, and you know, I don't know, final table is going to be several hours, and we're talking poker. I look over at David, and he's got his laptop or whatever device he's watching, and he's got a YouTube cooking channel up on how to like chop vegetables in a more precise way while we're doing the show. He was really into cooking at that point. So he also taught me about crypto. He was going to, I said, well, I'd be interested. Let me know. He helped me set up a wallet. He was telling me about it. I said, how do I buy it? You know, I mean, that's how much I knew. He says, well, actually, I have the tournaments coming up, some big buy-in tournaments, and I will sell you some because I need cash. He was very cash poor because he had it all in crypto. He said, I'm taking my daughter on a cruise, so he'd back in a week. We were going to work again. He comes back in a week. I hand him a check, and he says, you know, I'm going to hang on to what I have, and I'm actually going to buy more. So I didn't get to buy any. Seriously, the next day, crypto was the first time Bitcoin had doubled from what was a pretty good amount to a really big amount. So eventually I got into it, and I've done well. I don't have a lot, but it's been a nice ride. NFT is another thing I have no idea, don't understand. World Series put out some NFT things, so they still are, of some videos, some pictures, and they were nice to us. They said, because your voice is going to be on some of these video NFTs, we'll give you a very tiny percentage. I haven't seen a dime from it, so I don't know what's going on with that.
Hold on, Lon. Let's back this truck up. I know you said you don't have an agent. You know, I wear a lot of hats. If you need me to represent you, don't let them act like they're doing you a favor. They need you. You can't. They gotta break you off, man.
We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline.
This is another conversation. But in the meantime, let's segue into some questions. And also, GG Poker, I know you've done some stuff with them. You're rocking the mug. It's in the background here.
Well, it's a random mug today. It is seriously a random mug today, but yeah.
All right, fair enough.
GG's a company that you will see a lot more of, I predict, in the coming years, and we'll have a bigger footprint and say so, I think, on World Series of Poker stuff.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with them. You know, obviously, it's great to see the poker world and online game operators being more diverse, right? Because when it was just stars or someone has a monopoly, it's tricky. But now with Party Poker, GG, you could throw on ACR, some other ones, the 888s, and these companies that are sort of like all in the mix. It helps to make sure they're doing their best for the players, for the community, and everyone,
Agreed.
motivated. So I think that's great, and
I think,
I'm
and
impressed.
I don't know if I'm talking out of school. I don't know, but we did the Norman Mariajo and I called the World Series of Poker Europe final table. It was from Razvedov, Czech Republic. We did it from a studio in Las Vegas, and Gigi put together a whole production with us. They wanted to make it look like NFL Today, where you got the announcers who are doing it, and then they've got the halftime guys, and they put together a group of 4 or 5 other people. Ali Najad leading the way, and we went to them during break, and we came back to this, and it was amazing production, and did the final table from there. I think their hope is after the next World Series in Las Vegas is to do more final tables from international destinations, and so there's going to be some more GGP work and more poker coming your way next fall, I think.
Very cool. Yeah, no, it's definitely a great brand, and I think they do have the lead now ahead of even Poker Stars, which is pretty crazy. But either way,
yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah,
it's really been interesting to see the kind of mix
good people. Yeah.
of everything. It's good for the game, I think, when there's multiple people. All right, well, let's rapid fire. Let's get some of these questions in.
Okay.
Well, some of these we've kind of covered already, but we'll just kind of zoom through.
What did that say? Commentated? Come on.
Yep. That's tough.
I don't answer typo questions. I don't answer.
Oh, you're a great supporter, and ask a lot of good ones. We're gonna have to skip that one. Countries, give me some travel stuff. What are some places you'd like to visit for work or otherwise?
Oh wow, I've been very lucky in my career to have been to nearly every continent, and covered kickboxing in as I mentioned in Tokyo and Bangkok, Thailand. And up in Canada, done poker in Canada, done poker in Australia, and south of France and England and US, and I did 2 years of fishing shows, or a year of fishing shows, in the greatest fishing destinations in Mexico and of course down in Florida and the Keys and Hawaii. And
is this maybe the best part of the job? Is this like, I mean, looking back, because I didn't realize you did that much traveling for these things. So I mean, you've been all over for covering events and doing work, getting to work, and have that coupled in. I mean, is that still alluring to you now? Or are you like, I want to go somewhere?
Oh yeah, come on. I mean, I got shut down. I was 2 weeks away from going to play and be a World Series ambassador at a casino in Morocco 2 years ago, where the World Series of Poker circuit was going to go, and we got shut down for COVID. So I'm waiting to get back there. I filled it in with going to Aruba down there and making back-to-back final tables. Thank you very much. And just wherever I can go. Did some hiking in Italy a couple years ago, and I love my travel. I have not gotten tired of that.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that with poker as well, that's for sure what I would say. One of the best things is then, no matter what happens.
Oh yeah,
over the traveling and having opportunities to do that stuff. It's pretty cool. What good changes have you noticed lately for poker? Duck Dodgers asks, anything noticeably nice recently?
We've mentioned a lot of it. Big blind ante. That's enough said there. That's a done deal. People fought it for a little bit. I think there's still a little battle on what goes first, the ante or the big blind when somebody short stack. The bloom of bringing more women into the game. We mentioned that, and Power Poker and other people and some of the women's tour groups. I think it's untapped. I really do. I mean, there's a lot of women playing poker, and people talk about it, but it's still untapped. They got to figure out a way to make it easy and normal for women to get into a local poker room and work their way up. And just to have platforms, as mentioned, like this one, to tell people about the game, and it's not the smoky back room that really, I think, still permeates the game for a lot of newcomers and the advertisers out there, and just the momentum and bringing online poker back.
I want to say it's the same. It's a bit. It's a weird thing where it's like, sports seem to have quickly jumped where it's like people are doing, ESPN now is like, oh, it's the game, like in the standard thing, it's like, oh, plus 160, minus 140. This is becoming mainstream now where it's just like in the UK and other places, but like yet poker, it's like I almost, yeah, when I go to a dinner somewhere, people ask, like they almost seem fascinated by it, but in some respects it does. It's kind of like as like a professional poker player. Granted, I do a bunch of other stuff now, content, business side, but like as representing yourself as a poker player, it's still kind of you can feel energetically that people are kind of like, it's sort of like not a, it's sort of, you got to like almost explain yourself or like, oh,
gaming is so big now. I mean, now Golf Channel has contracts with gaming things, and you see at least once around. I'm a big golfer, and you see they have to bring it up. They bring up a list. As, oh, look, before the tournament started, Bryson DeChambeau was plus 300, and now he's minus 700 or whatever. It's just like they're teaching people about gaming, and they're talking about point spreads on golfers. So come on, poker's
right. I mean, even I think Bryson is sponsored by DraftKings, which is
you see a number of them. Yeah, and back in the day, I became good friends with Paul Azinger the year he was captaining the Ryder Cup, and he was getting crap because, and the only reason I met him because he was playing the main event because of PokerStars, and the PGA would not let him wear a PokerStars logo on courts. That's how far we've come there, and now you see guys. John Rahm's wearing his CBD patch. It's like, come on, grow up, people.
Yeah, it's tricky though because then like I think I'm gonna pronounce his name wrong, but Campbell, he was Baltimore Raven player, was just competing in WPT here in South Florida. Cash went in there and like was kind of openly basically saying Richard Seymour he looks up to as like a mentor, and then he plays, and it's like cool, but it's like still as an athlete, you're still like a little worried or agent how it's like perceived. Are you telling people to gamble?
Exactly.
And like it's like that's the thing. Look, man, if you want to have a bad habit or you can't control yourself, whether it's you could name a lot of different or alleged vices. It's like it's up to people's control and their self. And you can play different stakes. No one's saying go put your mortgage up or go crazy. And it's
exactly.
It's just like you could play $1, $2, risk $100 or $20, or play online 1 cent, 2 cent, and like have zero risk. So yeah, it's tricky. I think Lon, we can be the poster for that. Let's move this game forward. Let's find it. Maybe we can come up with maybe we'll get Salzburg or some people creative and write a show. I'm surprised Matt Salzburg, who did Weeds, loves poker, won WPT Player of the Year. Like you would think he might want to craft up like don't you think a poker show? It's got all the things. Like you could have a great show.
Yeah, well, and we've always called the main event the greatest reality program on television, and because it's real. So we've already got a reality program, a reality show. We don't have to make anything up. We just have to package it in a format that is not, 8 hours long every day, like calling the live main event. And that's another downside that I don't know what to do about, Jeff, is that I know the WPT used to massage the structure as you got down to the TV table. But the World Series is never going to do that. So I think these 1 hour package shows are a way. We got away from those for a little bit, but now they're coming back and they're easily digestible. They're in periodic, episodic format where one leads to another. And there's only 15, it's like streaming Narcos, Mexico on TV now. You can just watch it and you can binge it or not, but people, I think, have to get reintroduced to the new poker that way. And then maybe they want to go and watch the live stream. But that's another thing. It's just like most podcasts, no harm intended, but are too long. So they need to be easier to be digest. And watching a live stream for 9 hours is not for everybody.
For sure. Yeah. Well, based on your podcast, that's interesting because I actually have had some 3 hour ones and stuff. And, you see Joe Ingram and other ones. It's like, it's interesting because a lot of it too, I look for like repurpose, just kind of talk. First of all, it's fun because, even someone that we've never really we've done some commentary together. We've chatted a bit and stuff, but it's nice to talk. Someone kind of get to know them and learn things. And it's interesting.
Right.
But it's cool. I think like nowadays the content is so like TikTok, short, minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, little clips, little segments, right? It's like, it's tricky because no one has, like they say, no one's got time for that. It's like true. Like, are you going to watch an hour podcast or are you going to watch, Game of Thrones or Billions.
Exactly.
There's only so much time. People are busy. They got their parents, their whatever. It's like it's just a bit. What do you think is like the best time? I'll just ask you while we're on the show. What is the target time on a podcast you think is good from your experience?
I've been not flying and driving more if I'm going to LA or Vegas, and so I'm in the car longer, and so I can kind of take it longer. But most of the time, I'm looking for under an hour.
Yeah, I think it's almost just, even if it's amazing and it's your favorite person, it's like at some point, exactly. It's like you have to, like, you don't want to feel like you're missing some of it, so you kind of want to watch it all, but like, how do you can't really, you have to commit at a certain point to. It's an interesting thing. I'm trying to figure that out. I think you're right.
Yeah, no, it's like I learned in college. It's like the best way to write a 20-page term paper is to write a 40-page term paper and then edit it down to 20. And we do that a lot in this smaller format where I'll have stuff written ready to go for the show, and then I prepare for shows where I don't know, in my mind, it's like if Norman dies during the show, I've got to fill the rest of the time. So I'm ready. If he dies, I can fill the rest of the show. But I know he's going to be talking, and I found out if I say a quarter to 1/3 of the stuff that I prepared, it's much better. Comes across.
Are you calling out Norman's health? Do you think
Norman is great?
Liability out there? I mean, that's a pretty
no. Don't worry. He's strong as ever. I just saw him last week.
Fair enough. I've not, he's a guy I've never gotten to really work with or talk with, but I like him. I think he just seems like a really, nice, good guy. And his jokes. My dad actually had a question. My dad, let me get a couple of my dad questions because he helps prepare notes every podcast. So he says one of his questions there are people who criticize Norman Chad for his crappy jokes he puts in like people will say, because I love his humor and I think you guys work perfectly, but there are people that will, everyone, of course, you can't please everybody. How do you deal with comments about your partner's jokes on the show? And do you like Norman's jokes? You've alluded, you love his humor, you love it. Do you think would you do anything differently, or do you think it just works perfect? Because I like his jokes. And it's kind of
he's one of the smartest people I know. And there is always some intellect in every little joke he has, whether it's inside, whether it's just coming from a different angle, whether it makes you think about it or something like that.
Right.
And so, no, I appreciate it very much. And it's a lot of times it's either building towards something or paying something off. So there's a lot of smart stuff in there, in the small stuff that he says. I love it. And there are many times where we've got to stop down from recording because I'm literally laughing too much to talk. So
yeah, I think
I'm a big fan.
But this is obvious. Like, just like anything, there's going to be people that love it and people that don't. It's just how it is.
Oh, exactly.
Like some people, in poker especially, some people just want technical analysis or whatever, and some people like the humor and light. And you got to know who your target audience is.
Yeah, and that's why our commentary for a tape show versus the live show is going to be very different. And that's why when we did the live show for X number of hours a day, and then the production group just kind of chopped that up into 1-hour segments and aired it, it didn't work because it's a different style of broadcasting and different information and different sensibilities and different viewers. So,
for sure. I'm going to take a couple from my dad here, and then we'll just do a few more here.
Okay.
We're getting past the optimal length for sure, but I like.
Oh, when I'm on a podcast, I think we could go 4 hours. It's not a problem. I'm very.
Set the record, Mike Sexton, RIP. I think we did about 3 hours. I had Mike the Mouth on.
I'll play you a song on my ukulele after a while. Okay, that's fine.
All right. Well, we can do it. At intermission. No. 2 hours in, we'll do that for intermission.
There you go. Promise.
All right. You played baseball while you were a student, had teammates who went on to be professional careers. Do you stay in touch with former teammates? And is baseball your favorite sport other than poker? Yeah, let's start with that.
It's evolved. I always loved baseball. I couldn't play it after a while just because I had torn a rotator cuff and had some knee issues and stuff like that. But yeah, I was always on track in my mind to be a pro baseball player. And from the very first Little League game I played, which I threw a no-hitter, to the very last game I played where I think I broke my ankle. So it was It was a lot of my life, and really wanted to do that. I enjoyed it, and it would have been almost perfect timing too, with the salaries that went up by the time I would have been pro. But now it's evolved to where I love to play baseball. It's one of my favorite sports to watch. I'm a big hockey fan, but I play more golf now than anything, and so that's kind of where I am right now. So it's fun.
Very cool. And golf, right? You're a pretty good golfer. You play a lot, or you like golf?
Yeah. I have been playing the best golf ever in the last couple of years. I'm hooked up with Matt Savage and the group of 80 players, and we meet up every year for a week somewhere in the U.S. or Canada or Mexico, and play for a lot of money here and there.
I started taking lessons, and I've gotten more into it. It is it's like poker too. I think poker and golf to me are the perfect. They complement each other perfectly. Even the tournaments, like how it works with the cuts, how it gets deeper, the payouts, the structure. Like it's really almost pure. And also, I think to get the analogy of like starting, let's say you're a 120 or 110, to get down to a 90 or 95 is similar in poker. Like to go from hopeless and beginner to like being able to, memorize the hand rankings, where to start, openings, like you can get better, but to get from like a 77 or 8 down to a 75 or to scratch to a plus, like that is where it's
different
like
world.
It's so hard. Like it's like the difference is impossible almost. So it's like I think that really kind of translates well to understanding what it takes and what it is to be.
Oh yeah, and it gets into your mind too. I mean, I played yesterday for the first time in a while, and I shot even par on the front 9, and I'm 10 over on the back 9. And it just gets in your head. It's crazy. It was the worst 82 I've ever shot in my life.
And it's also like I notice when I'm golfing, or if I'm playing even lessons or some playing holes where I play a few holes, like it's amazing too. I think the mind, right? Like when you're poker and when you have nothing on your mind, when you're not stressed, you're not relaxed, you're not having to deal with like logistics and things, and you're just in your space. It's different there's times where I'm at my lesson in the morning. I got podcasts coming in a couple hours. Got to be ready prepare for. I got my son drop. Like when you have all these things going on, and then like you're dealing with stuff, trying to set like you're thinking about a lot. It's like it's like when you're thinking at the golf course and you're not focused, like it's tough, right? And I think that's true.
You know where I first heard that, Jeff? The very same thing you said, super system. Doyle Brunson wrote that in 1979 or whatever it was. It's like, you can't be distracted. It's got to be all about poker, and don't drink.
And I think that's one of the hard things today. And you look at some of the crushers and the best in the world, and like you really realize that when you go in there and you're competing at the highest level, and you see some of the guys, like it's very rare you're going to see the guys that are in the top 0.01% on their phone or unfocused. And like that's something that has been interesting for me, where I've dove more into content the last 5 years, but I'm at the table, I'm texting, I'm doing Instagram story, I'm filming a vlog, I'm talking to this, like I'm not really fully engaged. I'm coming late. I'm like, whatever. And it's like, that's hard. It's hard to be the best. Like you don't see LeBron James or these guys like stories and filming their thing and in between timeouts and like whatever. Right. And it's like, I think that's an important thing to know. It's also just important to be aware of it and realize, all right, well, hey, if I'm doing something different, or if I'm going about it differently, like I don't expect the same results, and you have to find your sort of bread and butter in another way.
Yeah, a guy said it to me this year when I was wandering the main event. It might have been Elliot Lesser or something like that. It's like, he says, Lon, I'm sitting there, I'm watching these guys on their phone and they're texting, and they go, this is the main event. Come on.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's so many things going now, though. It really is overwhelming. Like with this day and age, I have a 2.5-year-old thinking about in 5 years or 8 years or whatever, like what's happening, the metaverse, like just like even to be in high school or college, I can't imagine. Think about when you were in college and you're playing a sport and whatever. And like now, though, if you're playing that, now there's NIL. I'm curious actually on your thoughts on that, because playing sports through around this, like this is a wild time. Imagine being like a freshman at Michigan, and like you got your guys, you see guys getting real, or Alabama guys are getting $1 million, $2 million deals, local car dealerships. It's basically like boosters now are able to find legally pay people and
exactly.
It's just kind of wild though. Like you almost need, as a freshman in college, like an agent or a manager to deal with this other stuff, because like you get lost on Instagram, Twitter. I mean, like all these things now. There's so many distractions, DraftKings, sports betting,
Like every year is
opportunity.
a new Wild West for some reason, and some, it is crazy. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. All right. I got to ask you about mortgage banker. So 5 years you were a mortgage banker. With your background in sports and love of competition, were you just waiting for something more interesting to come around? And are you still a licensed mortgage banker? Was that what you were basically like, I'm going to be a mortgage banker, and then this popped up, or was that just like
No, that was out of total necessity and desperation. And it was, I remember the moment where I had to sit down, literally sat down on the kitchen table with my wife and said, "Nothing's happening. We got to pay the mortgage. We got no money. We have to leave TV." And I met my wife at a college radio station, so we were steeped in media for decades. And um, no, it was something I had to do, and I had a friend working at the bank I worked for, and I ended up loving it, actually. And maybe because it was a great time to be a mortgage lender, rates were crazy low, money was flowing, the loans were good. It got a lot of people into trouble. I was one of the good lenders. That's why I didn't do great. I did good, not great, but. I stayed with the bank for those years, even though I was doing the World Series shows, because they had been really good to me, allowed me to get away and do the World Series shows, fly back and forth. It all came to a head before my manager knew I was doing it. I was flying to New York on weekends and doing the shows, taking a 6 a.m. flight from New York back to San Francisco, and I'm in the office, by 9:30 or 10 in the morning on Monday. They didn't even know it, and then some guy had the temerity to have a appendicitis attack on the plane. We had to land at Denver, and I was like 8 hours late for work. So I had to tell them what was going on. So,
Wow.
but they loved it. It was fine.
Very cool. And you are known as the voice of poker. You studied communications in college at UC Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
While you were growing up, did you kind of know, did you have people in the communications industry that influenced you? I think you mentioned you had some background, family, and stuff.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be a pro baseball player, and then when I realized that was going to happen, I was going to get into the family business. My dad was in radio and television, where I was born in Memphis, Tennessee. He was kind of an afternoon movie host, the radio station he worked at the time had played Elvis's first record ever, so he ran into him several times in Memphis at WHBQ. Moved to California because my dad got a job in San Francisco. My brother and I both went to UC Santa Barbara many years apart. My brother worked at the newspaper there. I worked at the radio station. Got a little job in Santa Barbara radio and kind of moved up from there. So it was a slow progression, but I knew that it wasn't a normal job, and I think that's kind of how I was just cut. I wasn't built for offices, even though I had one office job that was really a lot of fun. So it was just something that felt comfortable. I felt I was good at. I didn't feel I was a normal broadcaster because I like to bring something different to whatever I do. Some humor, some danger, as it were, because nobody, the broadcasters, my dad particularly, was just a straight-laced newscaster type guy. Never went off book. And the type of shows we do for the World Series it's just built for me and Norman and for my type of personality. So I love it.
Still. And did you know though you had a great voice for TV and radio?
No, actually, I remember doing little videos, fake newscasts in high school, and I got endlessly teased about my voice actually at that time. It's changed through the years just because of the physiology of always doing it, and your vocal cords change and everything. And so, but no, I got teased endlessly for this weird nasally voice that I had. But also I've had people tell me that they're flipping the channels and they hear my voice and they say, "Oh, poker's on." So that's nice. And that's what more do you want if you're a network than to have somebody clicking through channels and stop on your channel for X number of reasons. So if I'm one of them, that's nice. And actually, you're right. I'm officially, I think, I'm right here. Hold on. Of course, the late great Mike Sexton and I were buddies, and inside he writes, "May all your pots be monsters." That was a standard, but at the end, this is right at the bottom. He says, "You are the greatest voice in poker." So I think it's official because lovely Mike Sexton said it.
You got to get that blown up and put on the wall, man. That's a nice.
Yeah, I
nice
know, right? Yeah,
that's
he's a lovely man.
that's the legend of legends in the game, and giving you the nod there on that. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, very boy, warmed my heart. Yeah,
very very cool. Let's see here. A couple more. Like I want about stress in there. Do you feel? And this kind of goes with another question I have. Do you feel ever stressed about the continuity because of the time spent commentating on the games? We see a question here. This kind of spars me to another one as well. This is from Hanio75. Do you find your job exciting, or does it get stressful because of even trying to feel like you need to do something different, or is it just unique enough, or is it actually stressful or just fun?
It's both, and it's initially stressful because I put a high bar of success on myself, and one of the things I consciously do is try to make every show different. How many ways can you call a flop? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of hand combinations, but both Norman and I work very hard, and talk to our producers, they know how hard we prepare. So there is that stress level of getting ready, and you never know what you're going to get from show to show. It's a surprise gift. You wonder, you open it up, what do we have? Now we got to deal with it. It's like, a cooking show with mystery elements. What are you going to do with whatever is inside the box? So we work very hard at kind of seeing what gifts can be pulled out and what little fun things can be done. And so that's the hard work, is us preparing for the shows. And that's where it gets stressful. By the time we get in to do the shows, and I'm talking about the taped programs, we're both really ready, and we're both ready to play off each other. We don't know really what the other one's going to bring. And that's where the fun comes in. And so we both have fun in the booth with each other. Doesn't always work. But our goal is to make it interesting, for ourselves, and then to relate that to the audience and make it fun. So it's both stressful. It's a lot of work. But if we can pull it off, it sounds like we're not working hard and we're just two guys talking poker, having fun. And if we can do that, then we've done our job.
For sure. And tell me about canceled culture and this. Like, you worry with being a figure and you're on TV, you tweet, you do things, and nowadays, like, people, there's a lot of change, right, from what you've seen. And I'm sure you've seen some people, even people you probably know or fairly well, that say a comment, make a statement, do something. Do you think about this? Does this worry you at all, or are you just it's not, I mean, it doesn't seem like you're a controversial really type of guy, right? You're not like pushing that.
My moments.
right. Well, so yeah, tell me, does this worry you? Does it bother you? Think this is kind of crazy? Like, what are your thoughts on this whole movement and what's happening?
Yeah, it's one of the things I may have just kind of given into during the last presidential election, and I got a lot of grief for a lot of the stuff that I was saying, and in the end, I felt it wasn't worth it. And there's always, one of my least favorite / favorite comments I get after I write something like that is stick to poker. We don't need to hear your other, opinions or whatever. And which I always hated. It just makes a one-dimensional person out of you. And you have to realize everybody's got opinions. You have to respect them. You have to understand that we're all trying to fight our fight and get through the day.
Right.
But you have to listen, and I find to listen to other people is invaluable to learning about who they are and learning about who we are, who the world is. But it's unfortunate, you just get shut down as a one-dimensional poker announcer just for being human. And so it turned out it just wasn't the grief. And I've talked to other people about it recently who have gone even further and get away 100% from social media, and they just feel this relief. So I was able to feel that relief just by eliminating that one aspect and maybe not ruffle the feathers so much, but if I've got few things that I'm very strongly opinionated about, and I'll bring up if I need to. But just respect other people, respect their opinion. They don't have to be caustic, and so it's unfortunate, but it happens.
For sure. Yeah, I'm aligned with you there. It's also, it kind of can be, yeah, like the Twitter stuff. It's fun and it's interesting. You can learn and read a lot. You can also end up a lot of time there and back and forth. And you got, again, it's like it's an interesting space, and you got to
It's a
realize.
waste of time. Yeah, no. And then
Yeah,
you spend like all day pissed off at somebody on Twitter or whatever, and all this going on. You're like just talking about, oh, this guy did this, like, and then you click on it, and they're like 3 followers they have. Is like, oh, what am I doing? Wasting my time.
I found myself on it because I do a fair amount of giveaways. I like to just like give away stuff, money, tickets, things. I think it's fun. But like I'll have like, every once in a while someone will win, and then like before the day's over, the next day, they're like, "Where's my thing? What the hell?" Like coming at me. I'm like, man, this makes me just like I'm like I have to breathe and realize like, all right, I hear that we're saying, but it's like, this type of stuff, like you can't make everyone happy. Everyone's got their own sort of way
Right.
about it and visual and thoughts on how things are. And, you gotta do breathing exercises and realize like some people aren't rational. And also, is it worth it? Right. Am I going to fight with someone or
right. And not that 3 followers invalidates your opinion. It just, you have to pick your battles.
Exactly. That's the way to put it. All right. Do a couple more here and then, we'll do the giveaway.
Right.
Chip, how do you rate the chances of tournament poker being recognized as an Olympic sport? And do you consider poker a sport?
0. Yeah, they're not going to do it. I mean, if they took off baseball and softball.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think that I agree.
We have an Olympic sport in poker. It's called the World Series of Poker.
There you go. Very, very true. But to be fair, I mean, baseball, that's insane, I think, too. But there are other sports like or things that are kind of wild that like are like maybe not heard of or think of that would be that are. But
yeah, I mean, how many we had at maximum? What was it, like 200, 208 countries involved in a recent Olympics, and I don't know that you're going to find teams from all 208 countries. Not that you have to, of course, but
right.
Yeah, we've got the Olympics of poker already. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I was just curious on that. Do you know how many countries are in the world? I thought
in the world.
Yeah.
Wow, it changes every day, doesn't it?
I guess because this number shocked me a bit.
No, I don't. Is it like 310? I don't know.
It says 195.
195?
Yeah.
Does that count Canada?
For some reason,
Canada's not a real country anyway.
Canada takes. I don't know. Yeah, it does. But anyway, it says there are 195. This total 193 that are members of the United Nations and 2 that are non-member.
Really?
Palestine and Holy See. Anyway, yeah, interesting. I thought it was like 220 or something, but
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe, who knows, man? There's so much fake news.
Did you just look that up? Did you just look that up?
How many countries are there? 195 countries.
Okay.
So I don't know.
195.
I'm not sure if that's right. Anyway,
it seems small. It is a small world, Jeff.
I thought it was 220, man. That seems all right.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing, solvers. Opinion on solvers. Let me queue up the giveaway. Solvers. And who's your poker mentor? Let's do those 2. I'll just put them together.
Solvers. Yeah, I don't do solvers. I've just gotten into to range charts just a little bit right now with Doug Polk. And what was the other one? My mentor?
Yeah. Do you have a poker
mentor? Wow. For poker, again, I've recently just wanted to try to become a better player, and I have been reaching out to some of the poker pros that I work with. So I guess they would be my mentors. I've got some friends who play, who will be the first ones I text and go, "This happened to me." But yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, nobody.
Nobody in particular.
Not really. Like Doyle Brunson. I got to play next to Doyle this summer in a little video fake poker tournament we did at the main event final table when Vince Vaughn came in. So I sat next to Doyle, and that was a highlight in my poker career, actually, because I check raised Doyle, and then I knocked Doyle out. And just before that, he showed me 10 deuce before he folded it. It was like, oh my gosh!
But the check raise, you had it or no?
Yeah, I had pocket jacks. He had ace queen. An ace flopped, a jack flopped. I checked raise him and then knocked him out. So,
there you go. You got to do it all. Very nice. Well, that is cool. Yeah, I'm trying to Doyle. I have one great Doyle story from meeting him, and he's he is just, obviously he's the guy, right? Mike Sexton, Doyle Brunson. Those are 2 of the guys in poker. They're just like iconic as it gets in our lifetime. Yeah, Doyle's. I mean, that guy is impressive. He's still competing, playing, and around. And
He's so sharp, man. He is so sharp.
he's just one of those guys. He just
Yeah.
gets it done. All right. Well, let's hear. I loaded up this giveaway. Let's.
right.
I'll let you choose it. You tell me when. You count it down, and then someone's going to win 20.
What am I going to do? What am I doing?
However you want. You could do your ukulele. You could just count it. You could talk about it. You could just say.
Oh, are you going to choose? I have to do anything?
You don't have to really you just tell me when, because I loaded it
Oh,
up.
okay. Oh, you got a randomizer thing?
I got serious stuff here. This is not. This is
All right. Let's count to 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now.
Boom. There it is. Choose a winner. I am sure. Let's see who's going to get it. 20 in the pocket, man. That's not bad. You never know what 20 can do. Look at that name. I'm not going to go for the pronunciation, but I am going to message him. It's, man, what do you give a shot at that? Can you read that? Do you want to give a shot at what that says?
Is it Cubans?
No,
it's that name.
Yeah.
No way. Zvegnes French.
That's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Either way, he's gonna get 20.
Sounds German.
And I think he might have won. Oh, yeah, he's won. This guy's won stuff before, man. Look at this. Some guys have all the luck, man. This guy's won multiple giveaways over the years. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So good for him. And yeah, man, Lon, listen, this has been a pleasure. It's very nice to get to chat. I feel like I've learned stuff about you, about poker, about the industry, the career you had. Very interesting and very, congrats. Very cool, man, to see you.
I have a question for you. I think the last time we saw each other was dinner at Carbone, maybe in Vegas. And where is Antonio? What happened to Antonio? He dropped off the face of the earth.
He's around, man. He's a family man. He's got 3 kids now. He's got 2 boys, a girl, and he's
too big for us. Too big for us now. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So he's doing great. I talk to him all the time, and yeah, man. Cheers. Thank you so much. Look forward to collaborating. I'm commentary. I love it. Well, hopefully we'll be doing some stuff. Some cool
I would
stuff.
love to. That'd be great. Yeah, we'll do a bracelet event together or something next season.
I love it, man. I love it very much. Thank you so much, guys. That's Lon McEachern. That's number 165 in the books. Hope you enjoyed it. We will have some big podcasts coming this week. Stay tuned. A lot of action, a lot going on. And again, big thanks to Lon, and we will see you on an episode very soon.